August 29th, 2023. StarWars.com published it. Ahsoka draws 14 million views for its first episode in the 24-hour period. But they're holding up that 4.8 million views for a 2-episode premiere as a win, as a trophy. Compared to Ahsoka, it's laughable. They got 1/3 the viewers of Ahsoka. And Ahsoka didn't chart that well. So we just had a really interesting week in Star Wars fandom with the 2-episode premiere of the Acolyte series last week. And if you thought the fallout was bad from that, wait till you see this next episode.
I would say arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not
bracing
the gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the...
This week on The Acolyte, we get to discover what's going on with the lesbian coven of witches responsible for the creation of May and Osha. Can't wait for that. This series is definitely proving to be probably the most divisive creation in Disney Star Wars history. Even worse than The Last Jedi, which the backlash on that was pretty bad. We're basically right back to the Last Jedi era, where fans were very unhappy, like myself. I was very unhappy with The Last Jedi and what they did. They basically destroyed Star Wars at that point. And then The Acolyte today, man, the agenda, the war, the confrontation that's going on. Well, let's see exactly what's happening, what is being said now, and more importantly, what's about to happen next. So a really quick update over at Rotten Tomatoes. The show still has a 91% average tomato meter score from the critics. 91%. How does that rank up against everything else in Star Wars history? The critics are literally saying that this show is the second best Star Wars show ever made. It's better than The Mandalorian. It's better than Kenobi. It's better than Ahsoka. It's better than The Book of Boba Fett. And look, the truth is some of those shows weren't very good. The Book of Boba Fett, was not a good show. However, that being said, executive producer here on the channel, Matt Rissman, made this comment. At least The Book of Boba Fett was fun. That's what we're missing right now, and I think that's a very important and valid point. Is The Acolyte fun? Is The Acolyte made for children, like George Lucas said Star Wars was, and Kathy Kennedy said they were going to continue what George Lucas created? No, it's not. Was Andor made for children? No, it wasn't. Even though Andor was a really good show, and that's the one show that they say is better than The Acolyte. The only show ever made is better. On a side note, I've been told that if you go to the Disney Plus app and click on the Pride Month section, you will find Andor there. Stands to reason that The Acolyte will be there very soon if it's not already there. Maybe that's why it's scoring so high. I don't know. But the thing that so many people are taking an issue with online is the 29% audience score. They basically bypassed the 91%. They use that to their advantage. They use that to say, look, the show's so great, but it's being review bombed. No. Hang on a second. Is the show being review bombed? Sure it is. It absolutely is. There are people who haven't even watched it, created an account, go over there, give it a 1, and then destroy it in the comments, and then they move on with their life because they don't like what Disney Star Wars has given us. But that being said, you don't think that part of the 91% critical reviews are just shills? You really think that this show is just as good, rates just as high as the original Star Wars movie? Come on, man. That is ridiculous. At least see it both ways. Take the blinders off. The Mary Sue, a self-professed shill site, like clockwork, annoying fans review bombed The Acolyte. Let's look and see what they're saying. And can you just imagine what it's going to be like, after Tuesday? Star Wars fans do not suck. Star Wars fans who think they only know what the franchise represents, they suck. Now those fans have taken to review bombing The Acolyte, and it's just as pathetic and gross as every other time we've seen this happen. The Acolyte has received overwhelmingly positive reviews from the critics. See, there it is. That's what they go to. The Acolyte has received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics, coming in at around 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a pretty amazing feat. Yeah, wonder why. With the current rating of 91%, it is just the second highest rated Disney Plus Star Wars series, just behind Andor. So tell me why the series has audience score of 27. Actually, don't tell me it's obvious, they say. The show is being review bombed by these so-called fans who think they know what is best for the franchise. Review bombing doesn't really do anything. It just shows how much time these dudes have to waste in their life, but it is really sad to know that without fail, they will do it just to broadcast their toxicity. If toxicity is defined as being very unpleasant or harmful in an insidious way, that's not toxic. That's being critical. They don't like what Disney has done with Star Wars. I don't like what Disney has done with Star Wars. And a lot of the criticism goes beyond the woke agenda. Is there a woke agenda in Star Wars? Obviously, go listen to Leslie Headland speak. Look at the interview that was dropped just a couple of hours before the premiere happened. That certainly didn't help Star Wars when you alienate so many fans. But that being said, that's not the root of the criticism. The show just hasn't been good in the first 2 episodes. They haven't given us a reason to care about these characters. It doesn't even really feel like Star Wars at all, and there's a lot of really dumb moments, like, I saw her die, and then 10 minutes later, she's alive, I believe you. What are we doing? I thought you said you saw her die. I mean, it is just really stupid dialogue at different parts, and it's just not working so far. Maybe it'll get better. I don't think so. Episode 3 is apparently going to destroy this franchise. Screen Rant came out with a great article. Oh my goodness. The Acolyte's backlash and review bombing explained what's really going on. Oh my gosh, guys. Get ready to laugh at this. The way that they see it is just insane to me. The Acolyte's diversity and representation have sparked controversy within the Star Wars fan base, leading to review bombing on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, that might be a small percentage of it, but it's a little more than that. Despite the negative reviews, Disney reports that The Acolyte has been a success with 4.8 million views on its first day of release. Hang on a second. 4.8 million views. We've already said this. Our good friend Valiant Renegade broke this metric. They have 150 million subscribers. Actually, a little more than that. 4.8 million people watched The Acolyte. Now, I don't know if that's 2.4 million watched the first episode and the second episode. They didn't explain that analytic. But if 4.8 million people watch The Acolyte and they have over 150 million subscribers, then that means three out of every 100 Disney Plus subscribers watched this show on the opening day, and they're touting that as a success, which is laughable. Do you remember Ahsoka? StarWars.com came out with the article, August 29th, 2023. StarWars.com published it. Ahsoka draws 14 million views for its first episode in the 24-hour period. But they're holding up that 4.8 million views for a 2-episode premiere as a win, as a trophy. Compared to Ahsoka, it's laughable. They got 1/3 the viewers of Ahsoka, and Ahsoka didn't chart that well. So what does that mean for this Acolyte show? They're saying it's the most watched premiere on Disney Plus. Well, what's it competing against? Echo. It's competing against Echo. See, you cannot trust these people. Now, Screen Rant actually gets it right and says the real test will be how viewership goes over the course of the season, proving whether people stuck with the show. Look, the 4.8 million views the 4.8 million people that watched this show, the premiere, in the first 24 hours, people like to watch train wrecks. But how many of those people gave the show a positive review? How much positivity is really out there? Now, it's important for me to say this as well. A lot of places aren't saying this. I am very unhappy with Disney Star Wars. They have destroyed the indestructible. But that being said, if you're enjoying the show, that's awesome. Don't let anybody change that for you. That would be weak-minded, would it not? Don't let anybody use a Jedi mind trick on you. If you're enjoying the show, that's fantastic. Great. If you feel like this show was made for you, great. But a majority of the fans do not. And I think that is representative of the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Is it a little bit lower because of the review bombs? Sure it is. But is it way higher than it should be with the 91% critical review? Of course it is. The backlash on Twitter has been pretty rough. Like, it has really been bad. We've been called all the names here: bigot, racist, all the things. And it's funny because they changed the meaning of these words. I'm not any of those things. But with that being said, just because I don't like the agenda being put in Star Wars, I'm all of these words. That's not true. That is not true. And a point that I want to make is that if the next Star Wars show or movie was pushing Christianity and Jesus Christ, these same people who are loving the Acolyte would be rioting in the streets, and it's true. So this ex-user, I really wonder if you asked George Lucas how he felt about these hateful, grifting, sad-ass grown men and how they react to the new Star Wars projects, what he would say. That's a very fantastic question, because you're assuming that George Lucas sees it the way that you do, when we know that George Lucas doesn't like what Disney has done with Star Wars. He doesn't like it. Now, did he stand with Bob Iger in the proxy war? Sure he did. Does that make sense to a lot of people? No, it doesn't. But to assume that George Lucas is going to love everything that Disney has done with Star Wars after the comments that he's made, after Bob Iger's book, but see, that's what people do. They twist, they bend, they take any information and they change it to fit whatever they need it to fit, whatever they need it to be, just like this person here talking about George Lucas, assuming that George Lucas would be all against the fans who actually want George Lucas Star Wars, that want a Star Wars that honors Lucas. They're going to bring the prequels into it. They're going to have that same old lame argument. It's your fault. You guys didn't accept the prequels, and that's the reason all this happened. George would still own it. None of this would be happening right now. Come on, man. That's an old, tired argument, and it just is what it is at that point. Let it go. We're talking about now moving forward. What Disney is doing is not good. And you would think that they would have figured this out by now. And you know what a major part of the problem is at Disney? This guy. Look, we got to be honest. Dave Filoni has given us some outstanding great Star Wars in animation, in animated form. But what has he done in the live action space? Nothing. It is a total failure. And he's loving this Acolyte project. He loves everything that Disney does with Star Wars. And, I said it several times before the Ahsoka premiere, that this was the trial of Dave Filoni. We're really going to find out if Dave Filoni is worth his salt when Ahsoka drops. Well, we found out. It was a terrible story. And I was into it. I enjoyed the first 3 episodes of Ahsoka, but by the end of it, I thought it was terrible. It was just a discombobulated mess. So here is a major issue with Star Wars and its fandom. Just a week or so ago, George Lucas said, "Nobody understands the Force except him." Is that a personal shot at Dave Filoni? Does Dave Filoni not understand the Force? Well, according to George Lucas, he doesn't. And people are just going to have to get over that. And you know what? I agree. With Dave Filoni and his version of Star Wars, we just continue to get witches after witches after witches. We're about to go deep diving into the Mortis arc. You just watch. The Force is female. They're changing everything about it. And it just is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. This Tuesday's show ought to be fantastic, with the lesbian coven of witches, with the 2 twins being born of the Force or witchcraft or a mixture of the two. And we're going to be making a video today. Like, we actually said that we were going to make it a few days ago, but we're actually going to be making it this afternoon, and we'll probably release tomorrow. You don't want to miss that video. It's a potential huge spoiler, bringing in the real world to this project, even more so than we originally thought. It is not looking good. Let's just say that it has more to do with personal pronouns and the agenda and all of that, and the show's lead. Thank you guys for being here. We are You Are Echo Base Network. May the Force be with you. See you on the next one.